Move now, or all bets are off. That blunt warning, sent from the world's most powerful Twitter-like, has reset a fragile ceiling of hope over one of the planet's bloodiest conflicts. Today, we unpack what President Donald Trump meant, why the clock is suddenly ticking, and what could happen next for hostages, for Gaza, and for a region already pushed to the brink. This is the moment. The U.S. president announced that Israel has provisionally agreed to an initial withdrawal line in Gaza, a step he says could trigger an immediate ceasefire, but only if Hamas confirms. Trump framed the deal as conditional and urgent. Hamas must move quickly, or else all bets will be off. In plain terms, the ball is in Hamas court, and the implication is stark. Delay could reopen the door to intensified military action. What exactly is on the table? The framework the president touted is part of a broader USBAC peace package presented at the end of September. Key elements reportedly include the release of remaining Israeli hostages, in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, an Israeli halt to offensive operations tied to phased withdrawals, an eventual disarmament of militant groups in Gaza. Negotiators, including US envoys and regional mediators, say the immediate next step is hostage releases and an initial ceasefire. Once Hamas accepts the terms, why the urgency now? There are two parallel pressures. First, the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, devastation, mass displacement, and collapsing services that has drawn worldwide alarm. Second, intense political pressure at home and among allies to secure the safe return of hostages and a swift deal. Trump and other leaders have signaled that this window may be the best or last chance to convert a shaky agreement into a real ceasefire before violence resumes at a higher cost. What happens if Hamas says no or asks for changes? Could negotiations stall and lead to a new surge of violence, or are there other diplomatic levers left to force movement? Read on. The hostage question, the human heart of the deal. At the center of these talks are people, hostages, held in Gaza, and desperate families waiting for news. The proposed deal links the immediate security pause to the release of hostages, a move intended to build trust fast and create momentum for broader steps like withdrawals and prisoner swaps. Israeli officials say they're prepared to act quickly once Hamas confirms. Hamas negotiators, for their part, have spoken about conditions, pauses in bombing, and guarantees for civilians. This standoff over sequence and trust explains much of the urgency. The regional chessboard. This isn't a bilateral problem. Egypt, Qatar, and other regional players are deeply involved as mediators and logistics hosts for talks. External actors are trying to thread a needle, protect civilians, secure hostage releases, and prevent a wider regional flare-up. Western capitals, too, are watching closely. Some have welcomed the chance for a ceasefire, while others warn that only firm verification and follow-through will prevent another collapse. Could this plan actually change Gaza's long-term status, or is it a fragile pause that simply resets the same cycle? The answer depends on enforcement and the next phase guarantees. What are the risks in the move-fast timeline? Speed can be an asset. Quick confidence building can stop more bloodshed, but it's also a risk. Fast deals can gloss over unresolved issues. Who verifies disarmament? What guarantees do Gazans get for governance, reconstruction, or freedom of movement? If either side feels rushed into bad terms, the agreement could collapse, possibly triggering renewed military escalation. The phrasing "all bets will be off" is deliberately threatening. It signals that the U.S. and Israel may consider returning to kinetic options if negotiations falter. Could this lead to a lasting pause? Optimists point to the potential sequence. Hostages released gives ceasefire gives. Phased withdrawals gives international aid and oversight, a ladder toward a longer truce. Pessimists see a fragile ceasefire without international enforcement or a political plan for Gaza's future, a lull that gives everyone a short respite but not a lasting solution. Either way, the next few days and the pace of any Hamas response are likely decisive if the ceasefire holds. What would reconstruction look like and who would lead it? The choices now will determine whether Gaza gets quick aid or is left to descend back into crisis. What to watch in the next 48 to 72 hours. Hamas responds, public acceptance, conditional acceptance, or rejection. Hostage movement, any immediate releases, and the pace of exchanges. Israeli actions, whether troop movements pause or accelerate near the withdrawal line. Regional diplomacy, Cairo, Doha, and Washington's back-channel reports for verification details. These are the live indicators that will tell us whether the urgent phase becomes a real ceasefire or another headline about failed diplomacy. The moral and political balancing act. Leaders face a moral calculus. Intervene too forcefully and risk wider war. Move too slowly and let hostages and civilians pay the price. For the U.S., publicly pushing for speed is a political message to both allies and opponents. Act now, and the U.S. will help implement terms, delay, and options change. For families and civilians, however, the calculus is painfully simple. They need safety and certainty now. We're watching a high-stakes diplomatic sprint, an urgent, conditional plan that could either unlock a real ceasefire or collapse into renewed violence if any party hesitates. The next moves will be fast and consequential. What do you think? Should leaders force a quick compromise to save lives now, even if it's imperfect, or insist on tougher guarantees and risk a longer wait? Drop your thoughts below. And if you found this breakdown useful, like and subscribe for more explainers on stories that shape our world.